Do we have the Maddie yet?
That's probably Sonia. That's her daughter's name, so I'm thinking it might be, she might be borrowing her computer. Her phone, I guess. She's in her car.
There she is. Out of my way.
Mm-hmm.
Hi guys.
Hey.
You're making us dizzy.
I'm sorry. 6 o'clock, right?
There we go.
Awesome.
Uh-oh.
Sorry.
I hope you're not driving. I hope you're a passenger.
No, I'm in the back.
I
I'm
know.
in the back seat actually.
I'm kidding.
Right.
I can't see who's all there. So is someone gonna call us to order?
Until they need to speak.
And the microphone, is it way up there at the front?
Yes.
Okay, so we have everybody in the meeting?
Yes, we do.
I guess I'll move if I'm.
And you should let them all know that they're muted. If they want to speak, they need to raise their hand.
So you are on mute, so when you want to speak, you can unmute yourself because we.
There you go. I was wondering.
Yes, but I would have to keep you muted first for now, Trey, because the others won't be able to hear you well.
Okay, so you want me to be on mute?
Yes, please.
Okay.
All right, so can we go ahead and start?
Yes.
So first on the agenda is selection of a committee secretary. Who would like to be the secretary?
Not I. Those really aren't my gifts.
Is there anyone on conference call that would like to be the secretary?
Look at all of them.
Not I.
Okay, I think we're down to pulling straws.
I would.
Is there anyone in the room that would like to be the secretary?
Be the secretary. I'll move to be the secretary if somebody can do it until I get back from vacation.
That works. That should be fine.
Okay, so Sonia will be.
So, secretary. I will note that down.
And do you have any initiatives you would like to discuss for today? Do you have a list? And I can take the minutes instead of Sonia for today, and then just when she gets back, she can start taking minutes. And if you're
Thank you.
You're welcome. And if you have any initiatives you want to work on today or discuss the topics, your committee will be working. And then we will have to prepare a report for the commission meeting.
Yep.
Would you like to?
Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
Do you have any initiatives?
No, I'm sorry. No, not right at this second.
Felix? Mr. Keller?
Yeah.
Could I suggest that maybe we start with reading the definition of our group for everybody so we can kind of all.
Sure.
Thank you.
So we are the Relationship Advisory Committee to study the problems of intergroup relationships, including but not limited to those relationships which involve age, race, and mental handicaps, poverty, or sex as a basis for distinction within the city, and advise and cooperate with the mayor, city council, and service and safety director and all other city agencies, boards, officials with respect to any such problems.
So when I hear this, oftentimes being a person in the community, I feel like we need to have access. Like we need to create a place that people can come and talk about the issues they have. I know several people that feel similar, like Mr. Block from our last meeting, that are being denied for jobs, and they don't know if it's their skin, their gender. So if we can maybe create, I'm going to say like a town hall setting, something for lack of a better, definition. But I think starting with creating a way that people can have the voice so we can know those problems.
Commission members' emails are already posted on our website. So if anyone wants to reach out, they do have an ability to reach out to the commission members. So we will be hearing from the community if they have anything they would like to share with commission.
Right. So
But
maybe it's just putting that out there though, like so people realize that they can
Maybe on
talk
the
to us.
commission meeting, we should mention that your information, we already did, but we should mention it again, that your information is on the website, that they can send you emails.
I think that'll be beneficial, yes. And then the reality of if we get an email, what are we going to do with it? What is the structure of that so we are productive?
Yes, well, just by the definition, it's saying we need to cooperate with mayor, council, and safety service director. So my question is, are there any systems set up now for reporting within the city?
We get emails now from people.
Okay.
So, and we just deal with it on a case-to-case basis.
Okay.
Refer it to a ward council member, maybe it's a ward issue, we'll send it to that ward council member. Or if it's a department in the city, you can deal with it that way. But it's going to depend on what you all get from the public. Yeah. So going forward, it'll just be kind of a learning process.
And you just created committees, so now each committee has its own duties. So now the public will know which committee they should reach out. So it might be more easier for them to identify the people or commission members who they want to reach out with the specific issues.
Are the definitions of each committee on the website as well?
The duties were posted, but
Okay,
we could also post each committee and the duties underneath.
Yeah, that probably would help.
I mean, I see people looking at just the titles and maybe not necessarily knowing
Exactly.
what
it is.
the
Even
function
if it's
is.
right in front of them, it's still-
Well, hey, yo, you
Yeah.
think? Trust me.
But then again, some of them look so familiar in what they're saying that it's hard to judge
Right.
which which one would go underneath what.
Absolutely.
So should we create a form for each of the committees so people can submit information? Is that what we're asking here?
I like that idea, the form idea.
Okay.
I can ask my coworker, communications coordinator, and mayor and city director if that's feasible.
Yeah, I think that would be a great idea. Yeah.
I can check on that.
Go ahead.
I'm just looking at the committee of the whole. It says to receive and investigate complaints.
Yes.
What's the difference between studying problems of intergroup relations and investigating complaints then?
So that will be someone from the public has specific issue that he or she wants to bring to the commission. And then you'll be just investigating what the issues and advising mayor and city director and city council is that you'll study the problems, some problems in community, and you're advising how to handle, or advising how to approach those issues. But the investigating cases will be the specific problems someone in the community faces, and that she or he wants to make you aware of it.
And it may get referred to a committee.
Okay.
In that case, I would like to emphasis on police and teachers. Find out exactly what like duties are. I mean, I think I know what most of them are, but I'm not for sure, you know, what their boundaries are in both cases. So I would like to address those two things. But that also goes along with education too, so.
Yeah, I think that police is a good, I think
That goes more with the
Something-
one.
I think that would be under this
This
department.
this one.
Yeah. So we can look at the items that we, you know, that I added in that first document. I think that's something that we need to walk through. I walked through some of that with Robin and Patrick. And so I think there's a lot in there that we can't do anything about, but I think that we still need to discuss it as a group.
Yeah.
With
It may not, but it
Answer
probably would make it
questions.
easier for us to explain if people asked us,
right.
well, why can't you do this and this? And, you know, we would be able to, well, you're on this board, so why can't you? At least we can explain to them, well, this is how it goes and so and so. Right now, it's like, well, I don't really know.
So I think what you're saying is maybe we should walk through all the things on this list and then see if we can maybe get the new incoming sheriff.
Yeah.
To,
Police
I
chief.
guess,
Police chief.
sorry,
Yeah.
thank you, to be at our next meeting.
Yeah.
So we can walk through those things. And I know that there's going to be two sides to that list, that there's going to be things that they can talk about, and then I know that they have, what's it called, the group that basically allows the police to, I think they're called the police union, so they have to do, you know, I think half of that list that I have is probably going to be geared toward the union, not toward the actual
themselves.
Can someone explain to me the difference between, because the Troy PD already takes the excessive, all the excessive force complaints, or if they have a, I guess, they use excessive force, they actually file them and they are oversighted already. Would we be in partnership with that, or would we be another layer if the community's not happy? How will that work? Does anybody, or do we need to figure that out?
People can ask questions.
Yeah.
But no, the community does not have oversight of that, but they can ask questions.
Okay. I just wanted to be clear because I don't know if people realize that they already look at every case. So he could probably quickly give us monthly, every time a cop uses excessive force, there's a report written up for that. Even if it's like not serious excessive, but they had to exert force, he actually looks at those.
Right, there are reports for all of those. Whether that gets given to you guys, I don't know that we can do that, but I mean, if somebody has a question, we would certainly address that.
So should we walk through these items, or should we just invite someone in?
I think you walk, I mean, do you have some that you highlighted that you think that would fall under this?
I think if you look at law enforcement, that kind of falls under a lot of what we're talking about.
Yeah.
today.
Yeah, have you picked any of those? Because you said you walked through those with Patrick and the mayor.
So we talked about some of them, and we looked at it at I think more of a macro level. I don't think we went through each one of them in our meeting, and so I think these are all fair game.
Because I'm sure we can get information on their training. Check.
And that is,
Employees, do they live in in the area or in Troy?
No. By,
Most of them don't?
they can live wherever they want
Yeah.
in a neighboring county, and that's state law. That is not a consideration for hiring.
I guess for me, again, I'm trying to figure out what our work is. I mean, in the whole. And if we're staying specific to what's given here, to study problems of intergroup relationships, that seems like this group's task.
Yes.
So somehow we have to identify what are the problems. And I might just be ignorant in knowing some of those problems. I might need to be educated on what some of those problems are.
Okay.
But to me, as I read this, that's specifically what we're supposed to do, is look at problems of the intergroup relationship, whether it's based on race, physical or mental handicap. So I'm just trying to keep us with what our task is here. So
Yes.
And you know what, you may not have a committee meeting on a regular basis if you don't have if the group doesn't have any questions or anything you want to address. But then when you come back to the commission, the whole commission meeting, somebody in your group should present, here's what we talked about, here's what the answers were, that sort of thing. So if you have a list of things you want to talk about, maybe that's where you start. What's a list of things we want to talk about?
I can add, I mean, what's rolling around in my head is kind of going back to what Sonia was saying, and like, whatever the reports are for excessive use or excessive abuse in the police department, maybe what are the stats? We don't need to know, specifics or whatever, but like, how many times is that happening a month? And and if we see like, oh my golly, there's 15 of those every single month, then we begin to dig into that, or I don't even know what a good number is. Or how about we take a look at, like applicants for teaching positions. How many of them are for each position, and what do those people look like? As far as, I don't know if we can break it down by gender, by race. I don't know how difficult that is to do those things, but that seems to me like that might present some problems to us that we either suspect or are completely unaware of. I mean, I'm just thinking some kind of factual information for these different organizations that we're thinking about, as well as what their processes hold. Does that make sense?
All except for the problem. Sometimes that is the problem, not knowing what race they are.
Yeah.
So that definitely has to be in there.
So is there any way for us to understand what's going on with the police reports? Is that not?
And maybe that's something
Information
we
we
reach
can-
out to them and ask
Okay.
them, can they come talk to you about that?
yeah, that I think.
Yeah. Well, from like a reporting standpoint, there's not a way for us to get that information? It's not public information? No.
It's not accessible through a computer. I mean, there's some HIPAA laws involved there, so.
Okay.
But
And that's the
or Chief Lieutenant can.
That's right. Okay. All right.
I know for our neighborhood watch specifically, each month we get a rundown of every police report. And they don't say names, but I get like the police report number if I need to take it to the manager, but we get the full, this is what happened, a domestic, so-and-so, whatever. So I'm sure we can get some kind of report of how many arrests, what the category, and probably ethnicity.
Yeah.
For sure, because we get that for neighborhood watch. Some things we know there are problems, but some things like we have to get people to even believe that they can speak about the problems.
Right.
So I do still want to hold maybe more than get online. There's got to be more mediums to be able to speak. And when people come into our meetings and speak, we know it takes longer to have a meeting. So I do think there should be some manufactured intentional times where people could just have their voice and say what they need to say. I know like there are a lot of issues, but do we want to act upon complaints, or do we want to get ahead and look at some issues per talking to people and issues that we see as well.
Right. And so the main purpose of this document that I put together is for us to ensure that Troy doesn't become a powder keg for what's happening in other cities around the country. And so I think that all of these things are important for us to talk through, in addition to having an outlet for our people to come in and talk about what those issues may be, per their point of view. And so we can have people come into our meetings. We can even have people come into our subcommittee meetings and speak, as well. So I'm certainly open to that if that's something that you all want to do, if there's not another time available. And I know that people can also come into the city council meeting, correct, and speak. So I think we already have an avenue for those people to come in and speak. We would just need a representative from our group to be there to witness this, to come back to the group and hopefully write a report on what happened.
And people can request a copy of the police report.
They can.
Yeah, you can walk into the police department.
Those are totally public record.
Yeah.
The problem, I don't know if it's a problem, but the issue is usually the access. The sheriff's reports are all online. The police reports, from what I remember working at the newspaper, are not quite as easy to pull up. Is that fair to say?
Sometimes you have to pay if you're not the victim, so that could be a barrier. Again, usually if you're the victim, you want the police report, but often not. I mean, they're pretty flexible. If we can just pose the question, and if people need help navigating that would be. I'm also interested in hearing in the incarcerations, how many are, we call them CIT, crisis intervention, and again, I don't know how that would work, but I'm interested to know, I think the police are having an issue with a lot of mental health, that no one's out there to help them, so they end up getting arrested. And so I think mental health, we have to also look at stats and numbers, because it's blended in with things. And that's another thing that we could advocate for, that mental health people don't have the language and the ability to advocate themselves, because there are a lot of slipping, a lot of homelessness that we will glean out as well. For example, we had someone in the shelter that was not stabilized, so they kept picking the downtown flowers and throwing them into the bridge. Not once, twice, 3 times. They had to get incarcerated. But even the officer himself knew he needed to be in mental health, and we don't have a mental health facility unless you're going to kill yourself. So that's a huge issue. And how can we work together to kind of show that light as well? That's going to help the whole community if we can prove the lack of mental health resources.
I hear you loud and clear. I'm trying to figure out, how do we discern who is a mental health situation? I mean, which one of those situations are mental health?
I agree. I think Sean, maybe we post some questions for Sean, since he's the expert.
Yeah,
for sure.
So it sounds to me like we need to have a meeting with Sean.
Definitely. And the school, since we also know that what we heard from the testimonies at HRC is that our citizens don't believe the school understands the dynamic of poverty. So it's a barrier to educating the kids. So if that's a barrier, and I think it goes every way, from the family understanding the school, from the school understanding the family, and then the socioeconomic. So we should have Chris.
Well, and Mark Barhorst, who's our personnel director.
Yes, definitely.
He is coming next week to the main meeting. Mark is
Yes.
as well, isn't he?
Yes,
Yeah.
to talk about recruitment and hiring practices.
I kind of feel like if we're going to be bringing in a lot of these people, the chief of police, superintendent of schools, I think it'd be times, the way so many of these groups overlap, it might be better to do it. Not that I'm against having it at a committee meeting, but we may as well just bring it to the main meeting, because so many of these groups overlap in so many ways. People aren't going to want to come to every subcommittee meeting.
Right.
When we could just do it at the main meeting and be done with it. Not
And
definitely, but address it all as a group.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and maybe like our subcommittee has these 6 questions that we send to Mark Barhorst or Chief McKinney or Chris Piper so that they can prepare and address those for us and other subgroups present, that way when they come, they cover all of our bases.
Exactly. And I think someone mentioned this, I apologize, I'm in the car, but educating ourselves. Like even for the community, when the community hears, we're not just shooting off the hip, but we're educating ourselves in order to best advocate for them. So any education we can get in regards to all that.
Mhm.
So these first meetings are kind of to get a feel for your committee, get a list of things that you want to talk about, questions you have. And like David said, maybe it's bringing a speaker, but maybe that speaker is more appropriate for the whole group together. But maybe give them a list of questions from your perspective as a committee on things you'd like to cover at the whole.
Yeah.
I mean, I know having Tom Funderburg is going to be there on the 20th as well. He and Mark Barsh are going to be there. We can prepare. We only have about 10 minutes left, maybe not today, but between now and then, via email or whatever, prepare a list of questions. Because Mark had mentioned it to me, and he said he's not exactly sure what it is he needs to prepare for. So we need, that doesn't do anybody any good if we ask a question like, oh, I have that. If Tom says I have that in a file back up at City Hall, well, that doesn't do us any good. But that way they can have a little better idea and be prepared and have the information that they need.
Hiring practices, how we hire.
And I think that's what Mark is talking about as well. Sure.
Right. Recruitment.
But if there's anything specific that we need, this would be a good time to get it together, and that way share it with the other committees and share it with the speakers as well.
And maybe Salome, since David and I are connected with school, I'd be happy to, field, if you want to put it in the notes, I'd be happy to field any questions that have to do with Mark Barhorst, and I will compile those and get those to him, with the date of, let's say.
Yes, if you all can email me the questions you have, if you can email me the questions you have, I can compile the list.
Okay, perfect.
Because I do not know personally what you want to ask, so
Sure.
you have to give me that information, list of the questions. And I can add that to the meeting packet also.
Sure.
I have a question. If we ask the entities HR driven questions, does that fall under the employment team, or would that be for us?
It overlaps.
That's why we're bringing them all together at once.
Okay, yeah, that's okay, perfect.
Because that committee will have the same questions that you guys have.
Probably a lot of the same, I'm sure.
After hearing the discussion and looking at your list, Marvin, again, it sounds like maybe right now is trying to uncover some of the problems and being proactive is what I heard. So again, looking at your list, being proactive to look at policing practices and to know those, because we know that there are problems in the country with those in different communities, and the use of force policy. So those are two, as I heard you guys talk and I look at your list, I think would be very specific. We know that those are problems that exist in the wider community, and maybe right in our own community. So to uncover those, that would make sense for me then for this committee. Yeah. So those are two as I look at your list. Or even the individual complaint records, or the individual records of complaints and individual records of arrests made by sworn personnel, and a breakdown of ethnicity and on those would be, we could maybe uncover some problems there, so to get started. Yeah. Okay.
So it seems that we would need to figure out if we can talk with the police department about pulling these records for us and what that entails. I think that's the next step. After having them, or maybe prior to having them into a meeting, I think we try to pull those records if it's possible.
Yeah, even if they could compile a spreadsheet, that would be
Our police officers don't wear any cameras, do they? They're
Mm-mm.
not
What?
No,
cams
no,
They have cameras in the cars.
in the dashboard.
yeah, they don't know how to. He was at a program Saturday and said that they're in the process of trying to get cams.
We've been to about 4 different presentations of camera systems
Oh, really?
in the last several weeks.
Have to find the vendor that won't allow the officers to turn them off.
Well, they're very complicated.
It was a side joke.
No, they're
I guess we shouldn't laugh about that.
No,
You have to be able to turn them off when you're in the bathroom and that sort of thing. So yeah, they can't be turned off.
Gotcha.
But there are different triggers that turn them on automatically.
I see. Okay.
So if they get into a situation,
Loud noises.
yeah, there are noises, if they turn the sirens on in the car, that will ignite or start the cameras. There are different triggers that start the cameras.
How soon are we to getting those in our officers?
It's hundreds of thousands of dollars. Don't know how soon that'll happen.
Hundreds of thousands of
Hundreds
dollars?
of thousands.
My goodness.
we're such a small town, we should be able to get at least 2 or 3 for those that are out and about. It
Well,
seems.
you have to buy a whole system. And they connect.
It's like
It is
rain
very,
at your house, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's a whole system and there's docking systems and they have to be able to work with every car.
I see.
So I think we're looking at how many? 40 or 50?
Yeah, because
One for each person. And then you have to have your docking systems and then you have to have your cars outfitted to, and you have to have your backup system that shows all the video.
Right.
It's very coordinated. But that's, we're looking at several different systems.
Robin, can you, do you know, has the funding been secured already for those cameras?
No,
Okay, I was just interested in that. I know the Troy Foundation is kind of a go-to, but it kind of breaks my heart as a social service person for that money to leave our community for cop cams. So if we could help advocate, I don't know if like the state.
they're working on ways of funding them. That's.
Oh, perfect.
That's all in, all part of the process.
Gotcha. Perfect. I think also it's our job, or maybe it should be part of our job to market the successes as well. So the community is aware of, the activity that's going on or what our community is already doing. Like, a lot of people were upset and bantering for cop cameras, but they were already working on it. So I think it also helps our community if we can voice those things and kind of be that, and maybe it's via the website, that this is what's already going on, this is what we're working towards, so the community is aware as well.
Is any of that in the council?
No.
I mean, no, we have an engineer's report that tells us what,
Right.
and that's every 2 weeks.
And chief may put something
You may be
in.
able to do something like that. And that would be the place to do it. Every council packet has department reports. And those are online every 2 weeks. Department reports.
Maybe perhaps it's just a link again, and I think it's only for a time. I guess what, right now, it's popular, right? The HRC. So I think a lot of people that didn't already use the mediums that were already there from the city, I think it's a way that we can bridge that gap and provide that education and get people to use what we already have. Because a lot of this we're already, like you're saying, it belongs here. So we can help people understand that that's where it is already. I have to do that a lot.
Yeah,
I'm sorry?
The information is there. It's out every 2 weeks. But you're right, people don't use it.
Here's a thought, and I don't know how anyone would feel about this, but I've been to the city website maybe 3 times in my entire life. I've been to the city's Facebook page on a fairly regular basis. I feel as though if there's a message we need to get out, we probably ought to consider social media in addition to the website. Just that seems to be.
Yes.
I know in my job, I can put the same things I put on the website don't get a tenth as many views as the things that we put on social media. So it's just a thought. That seems to be where everyone seems to be getting their information from these days. Good, bad, or indifferent. That's where they're getting the information from. So man, I don't know if that would be a page that's a subset of the city's Facebook page. I don't know how that would work. That would be for, I guess, for a group or for someone to decide. Just a thought, though.
I love that because it's like relevant marketing to the relevant community right now, right? Like people just don't go to those kind of, old structures. So I agree.
We have people tell us all the time, we didn't know. And it's like, don't know what else we can do. 'Cause it's in
Oh,
all
trust
the
me,
places.
I know.
I know you know.
They'd know if it was on Snapchat, although I know in the professional world, that's not how we work. But I agree with David, if we could just marry those two a little bit more, we can help the community understand that's where those places are.
Even if the city Facebook page just posts a link on their face, it doesn't have to be anything else. It doesn't have to be discussion. Here's the link for this information.
Sorry to interrupt. We have 2 minutes left before the meeting ends. Well, we cannot use more than 40 minutes on this Zoom account. So if you want to share last comments for today's meeting.
I'm good.
I'm good as well. Thank you guys for putting up with us on Zoom. Appreciate y'all.
So do we need to set a next meeting or?
Do you have a list of things you want to talk about at your next meeting? Do you have a list of questions that you want answered before the next meeting?
I don't think that
Or
we.
you
got
can
a
also decide
formal list.
later when you want to.
Yeah,
after
we
the
can
other
decide on the
meeting.
20th.
Yes, sure.
Sounds good to
At
me.
this point, I'm sorry. So at this point, our task is to send questions to Salome for both Tom and Mark.
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Good to see you all.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye, guys.
Have a great vacation.
Drive safe.
Thanks, Robin. Thanks, guys. Bye now.
Yeah.
Take care. But I totally what I say. Thanks, David.